Hello and welcome to another edition of Kirklees Local Television's Weekly Wind-Up. I'm Kyle Warwick and joining me this week are Stuart Ross from Magic Rock Brewery, Lucy Bye from Huddersfield Alternative Market, and joining us again is Jan Scrime from Colne Valley Heritage Trail. This week sees the release of Camra's annual Good Beer Guide. The guide celebrates Britain's many and varied producers of real ale, of which there are numerous in the Kirklees area. This year, Kirklees has 12 independent breweries featuring in the guide, as well as 8 Huddersfield town centre pubs featuring. Now, Stuart, there seems to have been an explosion of real ale producers over the past 10 years. What do you feel has been the catalyst for this?
One of the things that helped small brewers start up was the beer duty, small brewers beer duty relief. Small producers pay a lower rate of duty, and that started probably about 15 years ago. So then there was a bit of an explosion from starting about 10 years ago, where we went from around 550, 600 brewers in the UK up to about 1,200 now. So it kind of doubled in about 10 years, whereas the sort of breweries that had opened before that were a lot slower sort of coming through. People have been sort of getting into more of the flavour of what they're drinking, rather than just drinking the cheapest, most easily made industrial lagers. And the cask beer boom is all about the flavour of the beer and the quality of the products that the sort of produce and the ingredients that's used to make it.
That is something that I've noticed in recent years. You're starting to see real ales kind of held in the same esteem as wine to an extent on kind of cookery programmes, talking about matching real ale to food and things like that. Do you think that's helped the image of real ale in recent years?
Yeah, I think it definitely has. Beer in general has much more varied flavours than wine. There are certainly flavours you can use in beer that match with food that you don't actually even get in wine at all. Particularly particularly the sweeter caramel flavours that you can get from beers that match with sort of a strong meat stew kind of flavour.
The recovery of the industry could be seen as remarkable, it being almost on its knees in the 90s. How do you feel that recovery can be maintained in the future?
Well, I think there's been a really big boom of breweries starting up recently, and I think for me, I've been brewing for 10 years as well, and I've definitely seen a lot of really good breweries start up, but also a lot of really average ones, and I think we're probably due for a kind of a consolidation period. I don't think there'll be any contraction in the market, but I think there'll be a sort of curve off in growth. I think the more recent boom is kind of actually mirroring the US craft beer scene, where they had a big consolidation period in the sort of late 90s, early 2000s, and even a slight dip in the number of breweries open. Some breweries closed. So I think. Yeah, I think we'll be okay, but there could be a little bit of a levelling out.
And you mentioned before we started that Camra, as great as they are at advertising real ale manufacturers and outlets for real ale, they're quite specific about what they deem to be real ale. Could you enlighten us on that?
Camra, the real ale itself is a definition that Camra came up with. It wasn't a term that was used before Camra existed. It wasn't even a term that was used the first few years at Camra, when Camra started, and that's their thing, and can't fault them for it. Really, they promote real ale. What we do is produce a variety of different beers, right across all the sort of style categories. We produce a lot of styles of beer that don't suit cask. A lot of the American style IPAs. We've done a Pilsner, which was all kegged. We've done some sour German, some really obscure sour German style beers as well. They certainly suit a little bit colder serving temperature and some carbonation.
Lucy, Have you ever been tempted by real ale?
No, I haven't really, because I think it's more of a grown-up drink and I don't think I'm quite there yet. But I have been tempted by the real ale trail, probably to drink something else though.
Fair enough. On the subject of trails, Jan, you were mentioning beforehand there's a trail that kind of runs alongside your own, is that right?
Absolutely. We've got the walking trail, which is the one that we're putting on the website at the moment, but there's one that you can do on public transport or by car if you're driving safely, and it runs from Tolson Museum in Huddersfield. You can stop off at the Sportsman's, you can go up the valley, you can stop in at the Commercial or the Swan in Slathwaite and see the milestones and other artefacts at the same time, and then go and finish at the Riverhead up in Marsden and see the rest of the trail that way. So yes, we can tie the heritage to the real ale trail.
There's a few trails now, ale trail that runs from Huddersfield to Marsden and through the hills, and there's been a lot of negative publicity around that to an extent with behaviour of people on the trails. But now you're kind of starting to see Camra trying to reclaim the ale trail for real ale. Have the ale trails, do you think, been good for real ale in the area as a whole?
I think it's been good for the pubs. I'm not sure about the beer particularly. A lot of what I've heard about the groups on the trail are just out for drinking anything, not particularly the real ale. So I think it'd be good to see that sort of more reclaimed for the real ale. There's some good real ale sort of pubs down there. So.
What would be a good starting point for somebody looking to start drinking real ale? Magic Rock brews.
From our range, it would definitely be Ringmaster. It's on in the King's Head and the Grove permanently, and it's 3.9% easy drinking pale ale. Just great sort of session beer. Have a few pints.
Right, I'm afraid that's all we've got time for on this segment of the programme. As always, you can get in contact with the Weekly Wind-Up by email info@kirkleeslocaltv.com, or you can find us on Twitter by searching @the Weekly Wind-Up. Please join us after this short break. And welcome back. Joining me this week are Lucy Bye, Stuart Ross and Jan Scrine. This weekend saw the Festival of Light held in Huddersfield again. Part of this year's festival was the Alternative Market. The market gave young local independent traders the opportunity to bring attention and sell their wares. Lucy, what type of stalls did you have at the market?
There was over 70 stalls in the end. We had a massive variety. Quite a lot of them were brand new traders. We had a lot of them were homemade wares and things that people had made at college as well. We had certain organisations come, so we made sure that we worked with the Youth Enterprise Centre, and they came and sold things that they'd made, like the T-shirts. And there was one girl was selling ukuleles. There was a great variety of things.
How was it received by the public?
Well, it was only a few days ago, so I've not got the full response back yet, but I think it was received very well. Some stallholders did incredibly well and earning more than £650 for the first ever market stall. So I think it went quite well. And we also, it wasn't just about stalls, we also had performers and workshops, and for the performances they ran throughout the day, and a lot of those were young buskers that had never performed before, and they also did really well. They got quite a lot of tips and bookings as well afterwards.
Like small companies starting out and trying to get out there into the marketplace, do you think things like this marketplace are positive for local independent traders?
Yeah, definitely. I'm sure it's the sort of thing that we'd be doing if we had any sort of spare bottled stock to be able to sell. We're finding at the moment that we haven't got the space to actually do a lot of bottling, which is one of the reasons we're expanding and moving next year. But yeah, it's definitely the right way to go for small businesses, small producers starting out.
Are there any plans, Lucy, to have future Huddersfield alternative markets?
Yeah, we're hoping to hold 3 a year, so the next one's going to be on Easter Saturday on the 4th of April, and the one after that will be when it's the Huddersfield Food and Drink Festival, and that will be August-ish. So we're going to be holding 3 events, and we're also not just having certain like market events, we're looking to give young people more opportunities. So we're going to look at our existing markets and transforming sections of those into alternative markets, and there will also be opportunities there for young people to be able to trade throughout the year on a more regular basis.
Right, so it is possible then for young people to get involved in the organisation and
definitely. Yeah.
Is that something you're looking for people to do?
We hadn't, but I would most definitely take on other people's help. It's a big job.
Right. Jan, do you think this kind of event linked in with other events like the Food and Drink Festival, which some people are now saying the Food and Drink Festival is more of an opportunity for outside businesses to come into Huddersfield and make money? Do you think things like this can be positive for Huddersfield?
I think any event where you can get young people involved, interacting with the public, is fantastic. And as part of our 2015 activities, we're looking for people who want to participate in events in Slough in particular and in Marsden, where we can run something that's exciting as part of the trail activities.
There might be a sort of stigma on young people that they kind of have no get up and go. I mean, this kind of proves the opposite to a great extent. There's some of the stalls were packed with items, like you said, homemade items. What do you think it says about young people in the area, the ability to put something like this together?
Yeah, I think if anybody who would have that opinion, if they came on Saturday and saw the masses of products that people had been making in the weeks leading up to it, and to stand there all day as well, from 11 o'clock until about 9:30 at night for most of them. Obviously people in Kirklees have got to get up and go.
Unfortunately, that's all we have time for on that topic. As always, you can get in contact with the Weekly Wind-Up by the usual means. Now we move on to our final topic. As you may remember, a few weeks ago we featured the Heritage Trail that was campaigning for some grant money to restore a trail that runs from Slathwaite to Marsden. We're glad to say that the bid was successful, and now we have welcome back Jan Scrine, or should I say Tollkeeper Meg, to tell us what happens now. Firstly, Jan, can you tell us the significance of your outfit?
Yes, Tollkeeper Meg's a character I invented when we're giving talks to young people, schools, to clubs and so on, as well as at heritage events, to try to get over to them that for 100 years, from the 1750s to the 1850s, people had to actually pay to use all the main roads in the United Kingdom. If you weren't on foot, you paid. What you paid depended on the sort of vehicle you were travelling in. And so if you were travelling in something with narrow wheels, for example 4.5 inches wide, you actually paid 4p. If you were travelling in a vehicle with wider wheels, say 6 inches, you only paid 3p. And that's because narrow wheels damage the roadways. But some poor devil had to actually measure those wheels, and they had lots of arguments, so the toll keepers did that. And when we're showing it to the young people, they haven't seen old pennies before, and they're always really delighted to handle the old pennies. We'd only got 90 seconds to convince the ITV audience that they should vote for us, as well as all the help you gave us. And so I had Tollkeeper Meg doing the introduction to get over the historical aspect of the trail. So.
What will now happen with the £50,000 that the Heritage Trail has been awarded?
So the £50,000, most of it, £44,000, will go to a local contracting firm to actually restore the packhorse track that runs between Slathwaite and Marsden. It's along the border. And so we're awarding the tender at the moment. We've got a short list. We had to have that for the bid. The council is going to work with us on who we should choose. It'll be a local company, and from February through to the summer, they'll be working on the packhorse track trail and involving young people. The people from the college will have work placements there from the schools.
So it will be not just after the trail is finished, but whilst it's being restored, it will be
Yes.
an educational thing as well.
That is built into the tender. The people who contracted for it had to say how they would train the young people, and the college have got their classes ready to come along and do some work experience when the weather improves in the spring.
Lucy, you're a Slough lass. Do you think that'll be good for the area, the sort of highlighting of the local history?
Yeah, I think anything's really good for Slough. I think it's a bit of a trendy place at the moment. There's more people moving in, a lot more bars coming, and I think it's stuff like this which will bring people. It's not just, I think, if somebody comes to the bar or comes out for lunch, then they'll visit the heritage trails and things like that. I think it's all together one thing.
What was the atmosphere like, Jan, on the night of the vote and after you'd found out that you'd...
Well, we found out the following morning, the atmosphere the night of the vote, Twitter was running wild, and our Facebook page, our social media was really buzzing. And the following morning we had to sit for a couple of hours waiting for the results, and we were told to go to Marsden and be prepared for the worst. So we went to Marsden and we got this enormous cheque.
Fantastic. Stuart, how important do you feel maintaining local heritages and heritage aspects of the community?
Yeah, it's very, very important. We've got to preserve, you know, historical landmarks and you know the memory of what happened for the future. So it's very important to you know, to keep it alive.
Will you be involving schools in the process? Will it be sort of something that schools can go on day trips and things like that?
We shall be giving talks to the local schools. We've already been asked to go and give, or Tollkeeper Meg will turn up and tell the young people, and a lot of us to come as in. I mean, my accent isn't exactly local. We just love the history in the area, we love the heritage, we want to share it. So schools, colleges, old folks groups as well don't know much about it, and they love to contribute. So yeah, involve the whole community. It's a community project.
I think that's something that I've pointed out to somebody from Marsden before, that it's you tend to, when you've lived in a village the entirety of your life, you kind of become numb to the beautiful, positive aspects of the village that you live in, and you tend to spend your time complaining about it rather than looking at the good aspects. Yeah. So it's great that there are Cumeriners, if you will, coming in to remind us just of what a beautiful place it is that we live in.
And it's a very welcoming place. I love Slough, I love Marsden, and if we can bring people from elsewhere to bring business to the local shops, the local cafes, local galleries, people from Huddersfield even going all the way up the valley to celebrate the history and bring money to spend. That is the real aim of the trail.
And it's a great aim as well. I'm afraid that is absolutely all we have time for on this edition of the Weekly Wind-Up. Please do get in contact by email, info@kirkleeslocaltv.com, or on our Twitter page, search @TheWeeklyWindup. Thank you to my guests for joining me. This will be my last show for the year, so a very, very Merry Christmas to you all and a Happy New Year. I've been Kyle Warwick. Thank you and goodbye.